Okay, so today we are going to use Matlab to do some experiment. So with the example data set, so you help you to understand further the PCA and the point we illustrated during the class. The first one, remember we talked about, we need to remember this, the geometric interpretation of dot product of two vectors. Now, the concept right now is, you know, the dot product between A and B, these two vectors, and you can consider as one of the vector project to on another and the length. So you can easily to compute this easily. Now we are going to use B as our new coordinate system. So you have a original x-axis defined for A, and now if you use B as your axis, then you will recompute the coordinates of A, the data point. In that case, you, regarding to the original coordinate system, you rotate the A, but according to the new coordinate system as a B as x-axis, then you just recompute the coordinates for A. So you didn't change A. So I'm going to illustrate this using this whiteboard here, and our example value is, okay, for example, we are doing this 1.5, 2.5, okay, and our first vector u, okay, 0, and we only consider first this 1, 0. If that's the case, u 0 times v, okay, this will not change anything. So let's do this in Matlab, because I'm using the original coordinate system. So my example data and u, I use small u here because I want to make it just single number, single vector, single data point. And that's my u. And if my v is 1, 0, okay, no, sorry. Yeah, so I should use v. So let's use v as your data point and use u as your coordinate system. So if you apply u to v, so you need to transpose this, otherwise internal dimensionality is not matched. So in this case, you project your data point to x-axis. Okay, so here you get 1.5. And if you have u another, so in that case, if you use this to multiplicate 0, then you will get 2.5. So that is the projection of that point. That is the projection of this 1.5, 2.5, this point. V and projected onto here. So that's 1.5 and projection on this. So here you have, so in this case, this vector indicated by 1, 0, and this vector indicated by 0, 1. Okay, is that clear? So you didn't change anything. You just project your vector onto this coordinate system defined by this two vectors. Okay, so this is called the basis. Okay, basis matrix. Oh, I call it rotation matrix or whatever the name is. So this defines the coordinate system, the basis. Now in the class, we still use this example, but I defined a new vector. So this new vector is U1. Actually, it's two new vectors. So one is 1 over square root 2. So let's compute that. So 1 over QRT2. So this value is 0.7071. That's the one I used here. Okay, I use a new vector. I will use another. So this new vector is 45 degree here. Okay, I'm going to use this as my new axis. This green one. You will ask, okay, in order to define a new coordinate system, we need two vectors. So this is one, give you the direction of x-axis. We also need y-axis, right? We also need this. So if you are given one of vector like this, how can you get its orthogonal vector? So you need to give a vector which direction is orthogonal to the original, the given vector. So how can you do that? Any idea? Perpendicular vector. How can you get a perpendicular vector? If I gave you this, how can you get the perpendicular vector?
In this case, you could just make one of them negative, right?
Yeah. There's a general rule for this. If I have vector, say, if I have a random number, 2, 1. So if I have a random vector, say A, in order to get this A orthogonal vector, what you have to do is to flip this over and put the first element as a 0, negative, and then put together. So I show you what I can do. So the value for this, so B will be orthogonal to A, will be negative 0.9058, and then 0.147. So because this is a very simple system, only have two numbers, 2 dimensions, so we don't need any computation. You just flip it over and then put a negative for the first. So in that case, A and B become two vectors orthogonal to each other. How can you approve it? The approve it will be the A times B. It's almost zero. Okay, so in theory, if two vectors are orthogonal to each other, perpendicular, and then the dot product of them, the value is zero. So in this case, it's very close numerically. So come back to our example. If I want to use 0.7071 701 as my new x-axis, my y-axis has to be negative 0.7071 and positive. Okay. So in my unitary system here, I will define a new coordinate system, which is 1 over square 2 1 negative okay. My U0, remember my U0 was so this is my original coordinate system defined by x-axis, which is first column vector, and y-axis, second. And my new coordinate system, the first column vector and the second column vector. Okay. You may ask if I have a 3 dimension, if I have if I'm giving one vector, there are endless solution for the perpendicular vector as your y. And then in order to define XYZ system, you need to, I think numerically, people use a squared matrix and symmetric, then compute its eigenvectors that automatically give you this. So that's the function I believe is also this. Yeah, so this function will help you to do that. Okay. So the point is we need to have this rotation matrix, or called a basis matrix, to define this coordinate system so we can rotate points. So now if you use U1, multiply this original point, this point, example V. So that's what I'm going to do. I use U1 and transpose times V. Okay. The reason I transpose U1 because the V is vertical vector, otherwise the dimension not matched. So here I have a new coordinate system. That's if you use, okay, so that's my result. If you decide to use original coordinate system, which is in our right, so then this point becomes 2.85, somewhere here. This point become here. because it's 2.2. 4. So this point, because of operation, numerically become another point here. But you don't have to consider this way. You can consider as a new coordinate system, and this coordinate becomes this point. The point is still here, but the coordinate according to the green one, it becomes 2.8, 284, and 0.7071. Okay, so instead of rotate or change the position of your original point and make a new point in the original data system, which is indicated by this red x-axis and y-axis, we just consider the position in the green coordinate system. And so we don't change the position at all. We just change the view using different coordinate system. Okay, in our example, we just use one point. But if we have a lot of points, see, I have V instead of one point, I can have a random number, a lot of them in, see, I need 5 points together. Okay, I can define this. Oh, I need it. Let's do it to 5. So I defined 5 points. Okay, so I can rotate all the 5 points at the same time, just like what I did for just one point. So in this case, I rotate everything all together. Now to rotate, you can consider that I use a new coordinate system to view my data points. Okay. So now I'm going to, let's try. I'm going to generate a 3, let's see, 3 dimension coordinate system. So I need 3 vectors, X, Y, and Z. So how can we do that? So I will do a random, put a random number in there. So for 3 dimension, this is 1, right? So this is a standard one. X, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so that's my standard. If you apply this to your vector or data point in 3-dimensional space, it won't change anything. So I need to design a new rotation vector. So how can we do that? A way to do it, I'm going to use eigenvalue as a function. So just trick, okay. So I'm going to create random 3 by 3 and then use also. I hope this will work. So I just generate a random rotation matrix. Yeah. Using a built-in function, and this help me to get this. So if you have a way to plot this out, you will realize this is a coordinated system, just like what I showed. Illustrate here. It should be something like this. Okay. Let's see the numbers. I hope it makes sense. Well, I'm not going to try you, but you can use your paper to plot out the 3 points and from origin. That should be. What I can try is to do this dot product between them, and that should give me zeros in the off diagonal position because the 3 vectors, they all orthogonal to each other. Okay, so I just validate. So I'm going to use this U1 system to rotate a cloud of data. Okay, the data I'm going to use is the one in your home in your slide here. So I'm going to use a data. So I copied something. Let's see, V, my new data point collection is this word. Okay. You can type those in your comment window. Remember this is case sensitive, so G should be capitalized. And then you will get this built-in data set already in there. So provided by Matlab. Here I just add some noise. Okay, add some noise to make this cloud of data points look like some random. Otherwise, it's like a teapot, and you lost the generality of this. Yeah, so let me know once you finish this, you get the vector V. So this V contains 4,608 data points and the 3 dimensions. So I save this, rename it as V because V is a shorter name. Then I can plot. I should plot 3, yes. So the first column of data, so that's my x-axis, and my second axis is 2, that's third XYZ. So that's my XYZ. I'm going to use circle. Okay. So we have this. I'm going to use the rotation matrix. I just define here U1. I'm going to rotate those points. Okay. And then I will plot them still in the original coordinate system and see how this rotation is going. I want to make sure online students are okay with this. So far, you have those data points available for you to play. Elisa, thank you. Okay, so let's see. You know how to use rotation matrix to apply to data points. Now you can do it now. It's to use the U1 I just defined, and I transpose it so because I want to keep this. So I'm going to generate a new, and it's called new V. Well, so I have a 3 by yeah. So I have to rotate something to make this dimension right. But at the end, you got rotated a new data points for V. So V have over 4,000 of data points. I rotate everything. And now I'm going to plot my new vector data points onto the same picture. So here I use hold on. Otherwise, I will flash the old points I just plot. But now, because I have this hold on, I can hold and plot that again. This time, I'm not going to plot the old coordinates, but the new one. Underscore new, underscore new. And I'm going to use another color. It will automatically use another color because you have a hold on here. But if you want to use red, you can put R here and or green here. So I will just leave it by default and then plot those rotated point again. So you see on my screen here, I have 2 teapot shape. And one blue one was original. The orange points are the new one. But because the U1 is unitary matrix, so to every direction, the vectors in there are normalized. So you don't see any shape change for this teapot. There's no skewed and make it elongated in one direction or other because 3 unitary vectors are all normalized. So you don't change any shape. You only rotate the whole structure. All right. And remember the PCA. So next time people ask you, what is the PCA? Please don't see PCA is a dimension reduction, dimensionality reduction method. It's not. It's not. You can use PCA to do dimension reduction, but it's not per se a dimension reduction technique. It helps you to rotate your data points. That's all we want to do, and to display the largest variability among your data points. So next time you explain to people, PCA is to find a rotation matrix for you. So you can use rotation matrix to rotate your data, the end product of this rotation is to display the largest variability among your data points using the first couple of components, first couple of this dimension. Right? Yeah. So we are going to use PCA to learn this and to learn a new matrix, rotation matrix. Here I use U1, which is a random generated. Now we are going to have U2, and it's well designed use PCA. And in this case, we have V, which is original data. Let me see. Think about this. So we have to make the dimension correct. If U2 is a 3 by 3 matrix, because we have 3 variables, 3 dimensions, so we need to rotate points using a 3 by 3 rotation matrix. So if I make this correct, the PCA should give me a 3 by 3 matrix. Looks like yes, the U2 is a 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, so rather use a random rotation matrix U1, I just created. So we are going to use a PCA generated U2. This time I'm going to rotate the data again. So now the V new, it's really not a good name, but V new 2. And this time I'm going to use my PCA given rotation matrix to rotate my data. So that's my new data points just generate after rotation. So because the hold still on, I can plot that again. So this time I'm going to plot new 2 and the same color, same shape markers. And now you see yellow points. Okay. Yellow point is, so blue point are the original data. And orange is I use a random rotation matrix, it's random rotated. And then the yellow one is the PCA rotated. Okay.
I thought PCA was supposed to give us the rotation that gave us the maximum distance, right?
Yeah, maximum separation of the data. Yes.
Okay,
that's so let's see if we view this using X and Y. So we crush this into a 2-dimension. It was a 3-dimension, now it's 2-dimension.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the data point, the original blue point was the angle from the top of the teapot. But after rotation, so the original teapot position wasn't too bad. It also showed a large variability. But the PCA found an even better solution by rotate along the, I think it's a y-axis somewhere, and make this like a side view.
Right.
My orange rotation is random, so it
right,
doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm.
So PCA is also a dimension reduction then, right?
It is, yeah. You can use
okay.
this as a dimension reduction because after rotation, you still have a high dimension, but you view from the top eigenvalues given eigenvector given coordinates. So the explained variability was ordered, so you can view from the top top PCs and to see this. And I want you to try, instead of using PCA applied to original data, that's blue one, can you try to apply to orange one? So because I randomly rotate it, so you have this V new as, and if you run PCA on this, I don't know whether we should have the same answer. So I'm going to get another PCA apply to V new. Right. So U3 shouldn't be the same as the other one, but I want to see after I do this U3 rotation, whether I will get the same answer for the, let's see, the U2, U3. I will use U3, rotate my new. So if you don't get around what I'm doing here, I just try to apply PCA to the rotated data instead of original data to see whether I can have a similar answer. I'm going to plot another set of data. 3. This time I use cross because I want to see if there are difference. Yeah, so the answer is different from the yellow one, and I got a purple cross. So it's somehow rotated new system. I don't know if it's supposed to be the same answer. Okay, so next I'm going to show you, you are going to develop a function called myPCA. So this function will achieve exactly the same answer for the built-in function PCA. But because you create from scratch, so you will see, okay, how the PCA is performed internally. So let's clean up this. I'm going to edit a function called myPCA. So I define a new function. So this function should be, so if you search, which this is a new function has not been defined yet. But I'm going to do an edit. Okay. Edit will create a file for you. in the same folder here. So you see my PCA is here. Now, if you do search which my PCA, you will find this file. So this function is already in the search parse, and Matlab can find it. But right now, if you do my rotation, for example, I want to rotate my V's. So I want to give me a U for my PCA and put my input V. This should not work because there's nothing in there. Okay, but my goal is you will get, for example, the current PCA will give you U0. I want to have later my PCA will get U1, and the U0, U1 should be the same. Okay, so you create your own function. So in order to create this function, we have to write something in this function here. So you can have input, output. Okay. I hope everybody is following me right now. So I'm going to define a function. So this function will have an output U, which is a rotation matrix, and my PCA function name is here, and my input is my V. Okay, my data. Okay, so you can define the end, so you know that's in the middle. Okay. Now, if I run this right now, it still gave me the error message because inside the function I didn't provide what U is. For example, I can provide, say, U is a random 3x3 matrix. Now the function should work because I already defined my function. And this function has input, has output. Of course, here I didn't do anything with input, but it gave me the output. Okay, now the function is working, but the U1 is random matrix. Okay, I will pause here and make sure online students are okay. Now we are define a function. Okay, this function has input, output. I will do something with input and give output. So I can call it. Online students, are you okay for now? Remember, it's pretty advanced if you haven't done anything with other program languages. Okay, here I'm going to first centralize my data. Okay, I'm going to centralize my V. Then I'm going to compute a covariance of my V. Then my U is the eigenvectors. Okay, I'm done with my because D is not used, so I use this to replace it. Now, let's run this. I should get something. Okay. Is this same answer with my with the PCA? I'm not so sure. So let's do PCA. You have V here. Anyone can tell me whether our function is working? Did you get the same answer using, so let's see, we have U1 is from your function and U0 is from a PCA, the built-in function. Whether we get the same answer. So I will leave this question to for the time of the break, and we will come back in 10 minutes. Okay. Good. I don't know if you have got an answer. Nobody answered in the chat.
Yeah.
So,
My values are the same, but the columns are swapped around.
yeah, good answer. So if you take a look, so you see numerically they're the same, and expect the columns are different. So this columns has been reordered. So PCA, the built-in function, has ordered this, and we haven't done anything with this column. So how they ordered this? They ordered by the sort by the value, absolute value of the eigenvalues. So we really need this these eigenvalues, and we are going to sort D by descent. So I get indexed, and then I will sort the column of U by this index. So larger D means the vector, corresponding vector will explain more variability in the data. So once you ordered the vectors and put the vector with larger eigenvalues in front, in this way, you actually present the first vector, which your x-axis. This x-axis explains the largest variability, and then you present the second largest vector, second largest eigenvalue corresponds to the vector, that's your y, the second axis, and then you present z. So after you order this in the unitary matrix, it's not randomly ordered because it's ordered by the eigenvalues. Then you can use first top PC, first vector, second vector to present the largest variability and the second largest variability in your data. So let's try. So if I rerun this using my U1, Now, oh, where's what I did? Something wrong here. Let me see. Oh, I see. Well, there's something I didn't explain in the middle, but if you want to play with this, you will realize D, the eigen values are given in a matrix. So, or the diagonal elements of the matrix is eigenvalues. So I have to extract that out, become a vector of data, and so I can sort it. And now the answer and U and the U0 should be the same. Okay.
What does the tilde input mean? Out of curiosity.
This one here?
Yes.
Yeah. So sort, this function will generate two outputs. The first one will be the sorted value of D. So if you have a vector, so 1, 3, 2, 4, and you sort it by the descent order, then you will have 4, 3, 2, 1. And that result will put in the first output here, but I don't need it. I only need the index, the way how it is sorted. I put the first element to the first, the second element to the third. I need that index in order to sort my column.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you don't understand this, do a doc sort to see, because it's such a basic function, you need to have those.
Right. So the tilde just kind of represents a empty input kind, or it's an output, so it just represents.
Yeah, I just take the position, but I don't need its value.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Remember, I did the same. When I don't need this, I put it.
Right. Okay.
But now because I need this eigenvector values, I have to do it in this way. Okay, so that's our implementation of the PCA function. And also you learn how to write a function for yourself and the procedures of this computation. So they're all from such a simple operation. And of course, if you want to further dissect this covariance function, you can do something like a V times V squared divided by 3. And that gave you the same answer as a covariance matrix. Maybe not. So you can further break it down. So this, for example, you can replace this covariance function with something like this. Okay. Not exactly the same. Yeah, maybe divide by. Yeah, I have to divide by the number of samples, so that should be over 4,000 instead of. Okay. But in this case, we just use the built-in function to compute the covariance matrix for the simplicity of this. Okay, if you feel ready, we are going to load our single cell data and apply PCA on that. Okay. I will still keep my personal implementation of PCA, my PCA function here. I'm going to apply this to large data set and compare the performance of my function with the built-in function, see whether they end at the same time. So I'm going to clear this and going to single cell gene to get some example data. GA2, right? I have example data here, so I can load it. Let's see, load the row data. No coordinates of the row embedding. Okay. So now I have this matrix. I'm going to export this into workspace. I don't need SCE variable. I need big X. Okay. I probably need the name of gene later, but it doesn't matter. So X is the matrix we need. So I take those and say, okay, save. Now I can shut this down because I already have closed this. Okay, in your workspace, you should have X matrix. Okay, give you 1 minute to load the data. So we have 2,509 cells. We don't have a way to see their relative position. So I have to project this into 3 dimensions. So I will see the large clusters of the Indus population. So now the first is we need to make sure we understand the sample and the variables. So here we have a sample by columns, the cells. And we need to transpose it because so I'm going to transpose my my data because I want to use gene as my variables to define this. Okay. So my rotation matrix. So now I'm ready. My data points are ready. This high dimensional data. Okay. So I'm going to find a unitary matrix to rotate my data. Your function is PCA, right? Put my X in. And if you read the documentation of PCA function, you will realize PCA require you have a row samples and the column are the variables. If you make it wrong, and you actually make a wrong dimensionality. Okay, anyone can tell me how big the U0 matrix will be, this rotation matrix? You're right, yes. Because we are playing with this high dimensional system, the 3,850 by 3,050. So we need a rotation matrix large in that size. Okay. Okay. So I have my, so in this case, I want to tick talk, and I want to know how long it takes. How long it takes to finish this computation. Then I'm going to test my implementation, see whether I got a faster algorithm compared to this built-in function. Okay, on my computer, it took 20 seconds. So now I'm going to change this and use my PCA. Okay, so our implementation actually faster a little bit than the built-in function. So we are pretty good, right? Of course, you want to run maybe multiple times and see whether it's still the same. So you're always a little bit faster than that, and you have a conclusion. Okay, anyone can tell me what's next once we have this rotation matrix? By the way, U0 and U1 should be very similar. We should be able to check. Did you see the difference? There's no difference. Okay. How can you check two matrices are the same? Not by looking.
You just use the is equal command, right?
Yeah, so in this case, maybe working in the, yeah, but the best way is to take the difference. Okay, you use one minus another. Then you compute a norm for this. So that's, if you see in machine learning, a lot of those, you always see something like this. You have a, let me see. You see some like, so you have a matrix is M minus X. So this expression, you probably always see this if you read the data science textbook or articles. So when you see this, this tells you the author tried to compare matrix M with X numerically and see whether how close they are. So that's exactly we are doing here. So here, let me see. Oh, U0. Okay, I see. I see. So the built-in function of PCA gave a slightly smaller matrix. It threw away some columns. Okay, they have a cutoff. See, okay, it's lower than certain threshold. We will not output that. But in our case, we output everything. So we have a squared matrix where the built-in function just smart enough and threw out a little bit this low-level dimension, which projection of any data points on that dimension, just noise. So what we can do is to also to get the same number of columns. So I'm going to use 1, 2, 2, 5, 0, 8. So I trim my rotation matrix to the same as there. In order to compute this. So in this case, maybe not a good idea to do this, but this will be faster. But okay, I know why this value is so large, and since we have very different outcomes, and again, this is like some kind of numeric difference, and there direction of the sum of this access, because you can use 0, 1 or 0, -1 at the same axis. So numerically we have some difference in the direction of your the system used. Okay, because internally is computed slightly different. For the same axis, you can use positive direction or negative direction. That's the same as long as you have this everything hold. What I can try here is to use slightly different algorithm, so to make sure we have exactly the same answer. So I try that again. Generate a new U0. I hope this time the answer will be exactly the same as our handmade my PCA function. Oh, still have some difference in the direction. So it doesn't matter. Okay, so we will use our rotation matrix to rotate the data. So I'm going to use my rotation matrix to rotate my matrix X. To get X new. I think we should transpose this. I don't know if I should transpose this and transpose the back, but I will try. So my X new have a different dimension as that, so I have to transpose that back again. Okay. So I use our own PCA function to rotate, find the rotation matrix and use it to rotate the single cell expression matrix, all the data points already. And then I'm going to plot the points out. So I will use X new. Now X new still have, so how many cells we have? We have 2,000 cells. So that's the matrix. So we have so many cells. I'm going to only use top 3 columns here. One, two, three. Okay. My original matrix is cell by variables, by genes. But now the new matrix become X new. It still has the same number of cells, but for each cell, it uses this new coordinate system. So the columns are not a gene anymore. They are projection of the gene expression onto the new axis. And those axes have been sorted. So the first 3 will be the largest to explain the data. So I just plot this out. Well, still here. So this is a new figure. So that's my PCA projection for the cells. Okay, let's see title PCA. I don't know how much you get, and I want to give you 3 or 4 minutes to think about what we have been doing here. And next, we are going to use t-SNE to do the embedding, okay? So PCA gave you a result, something like this. I want to confirm with the built-in function and our rotation is correct. Here, the built-in function will help you to compute this projected coordinates called score, and the score are the XYZ, the axis we will use. I will do this for generate another plot. S. Just double check in this. Oh, it's slightly different. Okay, so that's real. Let me think about this. Yeah. I think we have some problem with this step. So I have to centralize my data first before I can apply this rotation matrix. So the projection I just plot here is not correct. I have to shut this down. So we need to centralize our data first before we apply this our unit. So I will redo this step here. So I'm going to get a centralized data. Okay, I centralize my data in the use this, and then I'm going to recompute x new. Use centralized data, and then plot them out. Let me think about this. So what I'm trying to figure out right now is the rotated results here, x new, is different from the built-in function gave to me as s. This should be the same. I will have to go back and check why this is slightly different. Okay, we get the same kind of rotation matrix, same first column, second column, but the rotation, the results are different. I have to go back and see what's the problem with. The real PC, the built-in PCA gave us some separation of the points like this, okay? And our own rotation result didn't give me some separation of those. So that's what we get, and I don't know. Maybe I should rotate this. I think. Yeah, I can't see any problem with my implementation here, but it's different from the built-in function results. What I can do is to open the source code for the built-in function and see how this score is computed. But that's something I'm going to explore and offline here. Centered score. I will spend some time on this later, but now we have to move on and to use T-SNE to do the embedding, okay? So T-SNE is one of the built-in function provided by TSNE. Okay, here. Now our input is still X. Output will be coordinates. So let's see TSNE. So, and then we need dimensions is 3. 3. Oh. Number of dimensions, I need 3. Okay. So this function will, let's see, TLC, TLC. It will take some time, I believe. So I still use this TikTok function around my main function to measure the time the function will take to compute T-SNE embedding and give 3 dimension embedding coordinates. And I will see how long it will take. And 31 seconds, that's really good. So figure and plot T and E. Okay. Say if you get the same kind of this embedding. So in order to make these two function in a comparable fashion, so I rewrite the way to call PCA here. So you see, I call PCA, and I don't need the rotation matrix, but it just gave me the output for this coordinates. And so this embedding is a PCA embedding, and that's the t-SNE embedding. And I need three components that should give me the top three coordinates. So I can do this to PCA. Okay, that was my PCA results and compare with t-SNE results side by side. Let me shut this down to give you some space to view. Okay, so these several lines of code I just highlighted here are example and to call t-SNE and the PCA, and then visualize its embedding. With the three-dimensional or top three components the same way. And in this case, t-SNE performed really not too bad, only 31 seconds with the PCA 22. So any questions? Are you okay? Dimensionality reduction. If you have the toolbox installed, you should have this run fit function. And we are going to try this, see whether it will work or not. Let's see. I don't know. So that will give you the embedding for the fit. Remember to transpose your bike this. Okay, so this function will give you the fate embedding. And then I will plot the three-dimensional plot, the position of the cells. Let's try. This will have some output on the screen, so you'll see the optimization procedures. I don't know how many of you have already made this run, and it took me 98 seconds. So the function I used is this. If you have this toolbox installed correctly, you should have that. The output of this is embedding for the using fate. And also it's 2509 by three columns. And then we can plot figure. This time replace embedding by the name, variable name fate. Same thing. So that's my fate embedding. Okay. So I just demonstrate using PCA, the built-in function, because my own implementation, I don't know when I do the rotation, what's wrong with this. I will figure it out, but I use a built-in function of PCA to project my cells in 3 dimensions. We use T-SNE and the fate. Try the same thing. Now we have 3 different embedding outcomes. So that's PCA. That's T-SNE. And the fate. Okay. Now you know how this was done. So just follow the simple code here, and I just highlighted the one before and that here, and try to understand. And now you should be able to appreciate more if you have data, for example, in this interface. If we have raw data which has not been embedded by any algorithm, remember you can select the different ways of embedding. Okay, I didn't put a PCA here because PCA is already built in for a lot of as a initialized step for a lot of those algorithms So they perform PCA first, then start to search the best embedding results. So if I apply one algorithm here, let me try t-SNE. We should, if I use all the genes, so this function internally is just doing the one I just showed you on the screen. Of course, I did a normalization before that. So one step more. Okay. So this procedure is the same as what we did here. Slightly different is we did normalization, the library size normalization of your matrix before sending the input to the algorithm. Nothing special. Okay, I still show these three different ways. Dimensionality reduction method. See if any of you have any questions. Yep.
Just, I'm not sure I understand when you put in the number of components or the number of dimensions, what exactly is it using that information for? How is it like transforming the data? If you say 3 dimensions, and it's going to plot it 3 dimensions?
Yeah, it will give you the output, only keep the top 3 dimensions. If you ask 20, it will give you top 20. If you don't ask, it will compute the whole thing, and then they have internal cutoff, say, okay, this will throw out. But normally, we don't need to reduce 3,000 dimension to 2,500. We need to reduce from 3,000 to 3 or 4 or 20. So we give a number, so we know it will make the computation a little bit faster. Yeah. Okay, for this one, we can compute, I just compute the t-SNE, we can compute the feed again. And you may find, okay, there are some inconsistent, maybe you want to compare these two side by side. So I provide a function which you can put the 2 different embedding results side by side, and once you select the sum cell, and we'll highlight it in both sides. So that will help you to, in the more complex situation, you will be able to tell apart, okay, those cells was embedded in this part by this method, but relocated somewhere else by another method, right? I'm going to show you the functionality here. So I embedded my cell using t-SNE first, and now I'm trying to do fate, and then I have 2 to compare with each other. The button you will use is this oh, the multi-view there in the menu. There's multi-view, and you can see I want to do this side-by-side comparison. Okay, I finished. So on the main window here, I only see one kind of embedding. So, but here I can, in the multi-view, I can see multi-embedding view. And then this should give me the two I just finished. And you rotate them, they will synchronize the rotation at the same time. And for example, I want to ask, Fate gave me this straight line here, trajectory of cells. I really want to know where these cells are in t-SNE embedding. What I can do is select this brush data, these two, I will select those. And these cells will be highlighted. The same cells will be highlighted from in the t-SNE embedding. So I realized, okay, this group of cell was projected by by Fate as this long trajectory, and the relationship between this and that is that location. So this function will be very useful. And for example, I want to know this group of cell, where was projected on. It was projected here. Okay, same data. So this group of cells are those, and these cells are those. I think majority of this are here. Okay. All right, I think that's all for today, and we have concluded here. So I hope you know dimensionality reduction and how it's used, and also know under this interface, the function is just so simple and it's just a couple lines of code, right? All right, so see you next Tuesday. We are going to do the class string analysis once we have embedding. Any remaining questions from online students? Okay, good, thank you. All right, see you next week. Have a good weekend.